Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of The Market Open. It is Friday, August 9th, 3:46 p.m. If you were part of the Market Open stream this morning, it was a fun stream. It was a very fun stream. And that is because we got to see Palantir hitting $30 for the first time since 2021. We are still at 30 right now. Now, we kind of gave it up a little bit to the 29.90s. But we got back there right now. We'll see where it closes. We got 13 minutes to the close. I think it wants to close above 30. S&P's up 0.43%. NASDAQ's finally moving up almost 1%, up 0.6%, which is probably what's helping Palantir maintaining that 30. As you can see right here, went right back down to 29.97. So it's struggling to maintain 30, but today has been a pretty historic and epic day in the world of Palantir. Obviously, because hitting $30 has been one of those things we've been waiting for a very long time. So if you didn't see that stream, I would go to the Market Open, and I put it in the chapters. So the last chapter is basically an hour of us going through that emotional journey of seeing Palantir get to that $30 range, and it was really fun. It was really, really fun to see it happen. This day has been great for memes. I mean, the memes today have been absolutely exceptional on Twitter. It's been a bad day for covered calls. If you have them at 29 or 28 bucks, it's not been the best. But outside of that, it's been a fun day. So some of the memes we posted this one in the morning. I bet he's thinking about other women. It's like, should I tell her I sold $29 Palantir covered calls? Now, granted, hey, look, if you sold 29, 28s, 27s, I think you'll be able to get out of them, especially if they're expiring in the next month. Like 30 is going to be tough to hold, but the momentum today is pretty monumental. And that's where you might want to think of rolling those calls out to a further strike or buying them back for a little bit of a debit just to keep the shares. Because at the end of the day, I can't definitively say Palantir is overvalued at $30. You could argue it's expensive at a price to sales of 27. It is the most expensive name in software. That is an unequivocal fact. CrowdStrike used to be the most expensive name, but then they fell. So it's Palantir. So I don't want to say it's necessarily cheap, but it's hard to say it's super expensive given the growth and given the trajectory of the growth that we see is going to happen. And I think the market is sort of reconciling with that as well. And that's why we're seeing this momentum on Palantir at $30, especially on a Friday. It's really hard, right? It's really hard to build something super sustainable in the context of AI, but the AI thematic along with the growth rates are getting the market exciting. And that's why you got Palantir here at $30. So very, very exciting stuff today for Palantir. We got 11 minutes left. I want to see if we can close above 30 because that would be awesome. The market makers probably do not want that to happen. So we'll see how they navigate it. Speaking of the market makers, they've absolutely been toying with Robinhood today. I mean, markets up this week. S&P had its best day ever yesterday. Robinhood basically stuck at the same price it was at post earnings, really not having too much momentum. I mean, I think it's up 3% from earnings, but 1787. I added again to Robinhood today. I am still buying. I added more because this is, in my opinion, a very awesome price to be able to pay to get access to a company that's going to be growing tremendously and has been guiding for stronger growth. I do think when we get rate cuts in September, we are going to see even more momentum for Palantir. We're going to see more momentum for SoFi, for Robinhood, and for a lot of these other names, NVIDIA, etc., because we know that as rates come down, money has to leave safe assets or risk-free assets and start to take a little bit of risk if they want to get that yield. And if Palantir is compounding, if Robinhood's compounding and the growth is not stopping, Robinhood, I think, is going to grow at least 30% next quarter. Palantir, they're at 27%. I think they get closer to 28, 29%. Money's going to need to find a home. The only way this blows up and Palantir goes back to 14, Robinhood goes back to 14, Palantir goes back to 20, is if there's something we're not analyzing deeper in the context of things that are broken in the economy. And it kind of feels like you can trust this bounce because of the fact that, as we've been speaking about, the Japanese carry yen trade seems to be unwinding in a way that's not as dramatic. And that VIX spike, VIX is down another 10% today, is starting to signal that the S&P might have bottomed in the month of August. Let's take a look at Tom Lee's perspective on what's going on, and then we'll keep going from there. We're going to call Steve in about 10 minutes, and then we'll talk to him and get his thoughts as well on Palantir.
Worst is behind us. What makes you think that?
Well, I think the thing that we're watching is the VIX spike to 60 on Monday, which is the third highest reading ever, and the VIX futures curve inverted, which was the steepest inversion since the pre-pandemic times. Both are starting to normalize. I think the VIX, as it closes below 20, and it hasn't closed yet, and as that VIX futures term structure uninverts, that tells us the worst of the panic is behind us. I don't think it means we won't have ripple effects because we know there's some trapped bulls, and there's still some nervousness around Iran and how much of this yen carry trade has to unwind. But I think the worst of the selling pressure is behind us.
How do we know that we had just a growth scare and not something more dramatic to come, Tom? Never mind the unwind of the carry trade, and no one really knows whether that's over either. But when you think about those two events, what does it make you think about where we could go moving forward?
Well, I think investors, when it comes to the growth scare side, have something they can check every week, which is weekly jobless claims, because that's what was a positive surprise on Thursday. And a lot of it came from Texas. Texas had a big drop in weekly claims week over week. The fact that markets reacted so positively Thursday to that jobless claims number puts me in the camp that that's one of the big drivers, because we had a better than expected claims number and then the market popped. I think the growth scare is what's on investors' minds. And next Thursday, they'll get another weekly claims number. And if that's also equally improving or stable, I think it's going to give people a lot more conviction.
What about the unwind of the carry trade? I mean, there's no real tell as to whether that's run its course, and that seems to be, the obvious catalyst at the beginning of the week for positioning being well off sides, and it just needed to correct itself. Has it finished?
Scott, that's a great question. Nobody knows how big that carry trade could be. I think there is a large insurance industry participation in that, and I did speak to some insurance executives this past week. As their view is, there's a lot of financial institutions that actually implemented this trade, but if it unwinds in an orderly way, it's not disruptive. It's just that if you have weeks or days like Monday or last week, the end of last week, that's very disorderly, and that gets very expensive because these insurance companies have to take off these hedges, and then they suddenly have unhedged carry trades.
Well, I just want to continue this. You suggest, if it unwinds in a messy way, there's no if. I mean, we saw at least the first reverberations from that unwind, and that was anything but orderly. What if there really is more of that to come, Tom?
Scott, there may be more of it. I think one thing that is been messy is the currency hedges, because these currency hedges were built for what you'd call like 1 percentile events, 99 percentile standard deviation. So a bigger move than that is what makes these hedges so expensive. They just let them expire. I think central banks can manage currencies within a 1 standard deviation band. So I think it's still important to watch currencies, but if we're staying in stable and predictable ranges, it can be a orderly unwind. But yeah, Scott, that's an uncertainty, just like the Middle East is an uncertainty as well. But markets climb a wall of worry.
So again, kind of this idea that in a bull market, you take the elevator down, get a nice flush. By the way, it's not my birthday. For those that ask me my birthday, it's not my birthday. But we take the escalators back up. And I think that's what we're seeing right now, dude. I mean, let's look at the S&P 500 right now. Again, we talked about a lot of macro things this week, but through all the stuff we talked about, the S&P is only off 6% from its all-time high. So all-time high was at 565. Right now we're at 532. In the past 5 days, this was the really nasty drawdown. So you saw 531 all the way down to, actually, no, it was on Monday, August. Yeah, let me do 1 month. Here we go. So 550 all the way down to 517. And then in the pre-markets, we actually hit 507. It's not showing it right here. And then we made our way back up. And so really, it's a question of, year to date, 560 to 530 is not a wild move down. And big tech has corrected even further than that, which is good because a lot of those companies had valuations we talked about in the morning that were just a bit too frothy. So QQQ was up at 1.20% year to date at 502. Now it's at 450. That's a lot healthier, down about 10% still, but up 11% year to date. And we saw a lot of companies correct as a result of that. Some of them already reversed it, like Meta went from 540 back down to 440-ish, now back at 517 or 506. It's been a healthy drawdown, in my opinion. Been a very, very healthy drawdown. Meta right here at, look at that, 516 on the day. All of big tech. NVIDIA's going to crush. We talked about NVIDIA's down a little bit on the day, but we talked about TSM's July orders. Dude, NVIDIA's going to absolutely demolish earnings. Like there's no, just like we knew Palantir was going to crush earnings, just like we knew Robinhood was going to crush earnings, NVIDIA's going to crush earnings. And so the narrative, hopefully going into September, is going to be a 2 handle on CPI. is going to be a rate cut that needs to happen. There were some economists today that said, oh, the Fed doesn't need to do a rate cut anymore, going into September. And it's like, just because stocks have recovered does not mean the Fed doesn't need to do a rate cut. At the end of the day, we do see weakening unemployment, even if it's not so dramatic to the point that we're going to have a recession, which again is that Goldilocks zone. It's a very thin line to navigate, but I think J Powell might be able to navigate that line. And that means we would get a cut in September. So we get a cut in September. We get a low CPI. We get a great NVIDIA report. We get the consumer hopefully not falling off a cliff in terms of how these companies are reporting. By the way, I think CleanSpark reports after the bell because they delayed their earnings until today. They're down 6% on the day. All of that should lead to a fantastic Santa Claus rally. And then it's just a question of who gets elected. And look, I guess we'll see, if Trump or Kamala wins, but that'll be another final variable. And if that variable is resolved, then hopefully have a strong end of the year. Cindy says, happy birthday, Amit. I'm a newbie to your channel and I love it. Cindy, thank you for joining the channel and being here. It is not my birthday, although the chat tries to say it's my birthday every day. I don't know why. I don't know what pleasure they get from that, but thank you for the birthday wish, even though it's not my birthday. Do you expect 50 bips or 25? Dude, look, if the S&P was still down 10%, I think the talk would be 50. Now the talk is 25. By the way, there was a Fed president. I forget the name of the guy. I think, I forgot the name. Some of you guys might know, but he said today we might not need to cut rates. And it was like it's like one of those sentences he just said in some interview, and then Bloomberg picked that up, and then and that's when you saw a little bit of the market downturn at around 11:30 because he said, oh well, maybe we don't need to cut rates. Like these guys just go on TV, Neil Kashkari, Goolsbee, all these guys. I didn't even know these people existed, dude. But now you have to know them because they're part of the Fed. I thought it was just J Powell. It's 11 other people that all have thoughts and opinions that somehow are so incredibly important and relevant. Like, who even are these guys, dude? Like, what do they do for a living before they became one of the 12 most important people? Realistically, some of the most important people on the planet. I mean, they decide if the rates get cut or not. And they say one thing, and then markets react to it. So they're a voting member, correct? They're a voting member. So that's another thing that hurt markets in the morning, but we'll see how it ultimately ends out. All right, Palantir, we've got 2 minutes, 1 minute until the market closes. Let's see. We do have after hours trading, but let's see if we can get that $30 close. Look, this is crazy, dude. We're literally at 30. Like we don't have any wiggle room. We're not at 30.07, 30.20. We're not at 29.99. We are at 30. It looks like it wants to close at 30, bro. It looks like it wants to. Let's see. It's like battling right now. Literally 30 seconds between Palantir closing at 30 or not. Let's freaking see, dude. $30.02. Dude, there's been a wild day. Such a crazy day. A close over 30 would be awesome. Yeah, I think, dude, it has the strength. 20 seconds left. 3 cents stand behind the first close since 2021 at $30 or a close at $29.99 or whatever. And then waiting until Monday. Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The stock market is closed and Palantir is closed at $30 for the first time in 3 years. That was awesome, dude. That was awesome. And it's holding it a bit. After hours, it's not really going back down to the 29s. That was awesome. That was awesome. All right, I've got to tweet that. Right now. Let me tweet that. That was great. Look at that. $30 for the first time since 2020. Let me check the last time it was at this level. Last time we were here was September 2021. September 2021. Last time we were here at $30, dude. Last time, actually, I think it's further. Hold on. I think it's further than 2021. It was, it was February 2021. Did we hit 30 in September at all? No, it was February. February, we were at last day was like February 26th. So it's legit been more than 3 years, bro, trying to get here. Wow. 30, and it's climbing after hours, dude. We hit a high of 30.36, $30.03 on the close. Congratulations to everybody. We got Chad in the chat. How do you like them apples? Congrats. Absolutely phenomenal day for shareholders. I can't even imagine some of the execs at the company, dude. Like, it must be emotional looking at this. Like, you were here in 2009, 2008 when This was just an idea trying to get into the market, and now it's worth how much? What's the market cap? $67 billion of a company for Palantir. Absolutely incredible. All right, let me tweet this out. Palantir closes above 30 for the first time in over 3 years. Wow, what a day. What a day, what a day, what a day, what a day, what a day. Congrats, congrats, congrats. What a freaking day. I want to play one quick clip from Karp. I played it in the morning, but I just thought it was such a good clip. It was Karp talking about why the best is yet to come. And again, that clip, I just think it exemplifies how he thinks of Palantir, how he thinks of the mission. Remember, Karp, people forget there's this interview in 2021. I'm going to try to find the exact clip later, but there's an interview where he says, I think the company can be 20 times bigger than it was. And at the time, the company was worth like 40 billion. So, you know, that gets you to a $400 or $500 billion market cap. It gets much bigger. He believes this can go all the way. Here's Karp on the future of the company from the Q2 earnings call.
And the single most important part, however, of this is that we are going to play a determinant role in making America and its Western allies the dominant force again on this world, in this world. And because of that, the best times for this company are not in the past. I would say the single most interesting thing about this quarter, if you had to reduce it to one simple fact, after 20 years, after changing the way people do intel, after changing the way the battlefield works, after changing the way people procure software, after exporting our platforms to our allies, after punishing our adversaries, after building a commercial business, after DPOing, after seeing it all reaccelerate, the best times for us are yet to come, and we are planning to just take our energy and run this business as a business of which we are, which is our owners. We are owners with a very long-term focus for the best interest of our country, our allies, and our Palantirians and our investors. And so I'm very thrilled to have you participate in this, what for us means historic earnings.
I think he sums it up best right there. Shout out to Coach Trap. He says, shorts can suck a dick. Palantir is the real deal. 20x is the goal. Palantir, 200% now, all time. 200% max. 200% return, dude. 200% return. The shorts, if you were short Palantir, man, it was not a good move this year, at least. Year to date, 77%. Talk about beating the fucking market, dude. Look at that. I mean, just an incredible year, and we still have a quarter left for them to show momentum and growth and capitalize on this AI narrative that's not going anywhere. Now, here's the key thing about Palantir. We need to normalize $30 and people buying at $30. So I will be, look, I'm going to wait a few days. I'm going to see how the price action plays out. I'm going to start buying at $30 as well, because I want to get accustomed to buying at some of these higher prices. At the end of the day, the goal is to accumulate ownership in the company, and we'll see. I also think the earnings were good enough. I don't think I'm just saying I'm going to buy at 30 to say I'm buying at 30. I said on my Daily Palantir video yesterday, those earnings were fantastic. Is it a bit pricey? Of course, it's a bit pricey. 29 times price to sales. It is pricey, but I think it's going to be a CrowdStrike story where CrowdStrike just got to levels that it was at since 2019, and it's the cheapest it's ever been since IPOing. Why? Obviously the whole fiasco they had, but because CrowdStrike had such good top line growth for 5 years that the street couldn't justify not giving it a crazy premium. If Palantir doesn't have that type of stellar growth yet, but they're getting there, and if they really get there, then the street's going to keep giving them this premium. It's just going to happen like that. There will be drawdowns in between, but I think we will normalize this $30 range. And by next year, who knows? $45, $50 might not be that crazy. If the market holds up, if the S&P gets closer to 6,500 end of year, QQQ closer to 650. Right now we're at 440. Dude, $50 is not crazy at all for Palantir. Also, I think the one thing a lot of people forget, AI, if it's not going away, if it was not a fad, and based on the Wendy's deal, the Microsoft deal, I don't know how many other deals, the Maven contract, obviously Palantir is figuring out AI, and their customers are figuring out AI is relevant to them. Well, then that's a thematic that you have to establish a growth story for a long time. Palantir right here at $30.02. S&P closes 532 for the week. QQQ at 450. There's a lot of companies where you need a growth story that's actually going to sustain itself for a decade. I think AI is one of those growth stories. I think in general, companies needing to make sense of their data, structure their data, i.e. having an ontology, that is something that is going to be a growth story. And cybersecurity, obviously CrowdStrike has had its issues, but cybersecurity is a growth story for the next decade. Like that demand is only going to increase and increase. So I think I feel safer, having more capital in Palantir, just knowing that thematic is not going away anywhere. Very exciting stuff. Very, very exciting stuff. This week, Palantir is up. Yeah, because it fell to $20, right? So from the low this week, the low was $20.69. So that means Palantir is up from the lows 45% this week, which is pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. Okay, so that's what we have on Palantir. Again, closing at $30. Great day. Great day for shareholders. Robinhood 1792, S&P 532, QQ 450, Meta at 517, SoFi ends the week at 664, PayPal 64, Nvidia at 104, Rocket Lab also holding on to those gains, 12% up on the day, IWM at 206. Let's check on CleanSpark. CleanSpark is down 4% right now. Let me see if they have their numbers. They have earnings today. They delayed them from yesterday. Very curious on if there's a reason for why they delayed. But CleanSpark, no numbers are out yet. But they are down 3%. Oh, I think we got it. Revenue missed on both the top and bottom lines. Revenue, 104 million versus 111 million, missed by 7 million. Loss of 12.7 million versus 44 million. Oh, the street wanted a 44 million gain. They lost 12 million. The street wanted 111 million profit. They made 104. That's why it's down 4% after being down 6.3% today. So CleanSpark is down. Not the best earnings, probably why they wanted to wait a day for whatever. But it's down. Amit, would you DCA on Palantir at 30 or would you wait for many dips? Well, the thing about DCAing is that's the point of DCAing, right? You just kind of throw it and see what happens. So I don't think you have to rush to buy Palantir at 30. I think August is still going to be choppy. Today was an awesome day. There was good momentum. But if that momentum dies out on Monday or Tuesday and we fall back to 28, 27, it's not the craziest thing in the world to me. So yeah, I would wait for some smaller mini dips. But the thing is, the dip now does not seem like it's 22, 23. That would be like a real correction. The dip is closer to 27 to 28. But granted, I'm saying that, and we had one day of Palantir, like we have to see this normalize, right? Like next week, Palantir has to hold 30 for the week before we say, 30 is normal. It's going to take a while. Palantir, remember, they held 27 to 29 for a month before the flash crash on Monday. And that's when I started saying, okay, guys, I think 27 is like, I don't think we're going back to 25 and 26. And we held 22 to 25 for 3 months from February till June. So almost 4 months. So I think we're going to need to hold 30 for a good month to really feel it's time, and at least a week to feel, okay, it wasn't just like a 1 day thing. And then, buying at 30 feels you feel more confident if you can hold it for a week. So we'll see how it plays out in the next couple of weeks as well. Amit, do you think Microsoft mentioned Palantir on their earnings because of the upcoming deal announcement? 1000%. Satya Nadella did not purposely say leaders of their industry, including Palantir, without knowing that they were about to sign a big partnership with them to be the exclusive partner to implement Azure OpenAI LLMs into the DoD. So I think that was intentional. I think we didn't read too much into it. Some people are like, oh, you're reading too much into it. He just mentioned a company. It's like, no, dude, when you're a $3 trillion company, you're mentioning companies purposefully on an investor call that's going to be heard by thousands of people for a reason. If Palantir succeeds, Microsoft succeeds because they're now partners. So that was a nod by Satya because they want to mention Palantir, maybe even Oracle on their earnings call. I think they have earnings in the next 2 weeks. They might mention their partnership with Palantir and why they decided to work with them as well. Oracle, $360 billion market cap. Palantir, $67 billion market cap. Obviously, we don't even talk about this guy anymore because this guy, you kind of don't beat people up when they're down. And so Snowflake, I haven't really talked about it for a long time because there's nothing really to talk about at the end of the, $41 billion market cap, kind of lost in the dust, really no AI strategy. New CEO doesn't really seem like he knows what he's doing. Doing keynotes with Jensen Huang to act as if they have an AI strategy. Like, it's just, the losers have lost, and it's not that Snowflake's not a good company, not an important company, but they keep hiring thousands of people. Palantir still has under 4,000 people. They keep acquiring tons of companies. Palantir hasn't acquired a company in 10 years because they're just built different. Culture is different. Energy is different. Everything's different. And so it is very, very exciting to see Palantir outperform. Chad says, I will keep bringing up Snowflake. Oh, man. Let me continue to show this meme. Again, today's been the meme day. Chad, by the way, someone texted me your meme. I don't even know if they know you. I don't know how they got it. I don't know if they saw it on Twitter or they saw it somewhere else, but they sent me this exact same meme. And that was a meme. Other AI companies without the ontology. And again, dude, we talked about it this morning. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but this chips and ontology thing that Karp talked about is a big freaking deal. If you either bet on chips when it comes to AI or you bet on the ontology. The ontology is what makes LLMs meaningful. Karp said that to my face when he said we can be one of the biggest companies in the world without adding tens of thousands of employees. And Arnie and I, we're standing in front of him. We're like, what makes you so confident? And he says, because the rise of LLMs have shown people why it's important to have an ontology. And so the ontology is something that Palantir has patented. They've been working on it for 20 years. They perfected it in the government before they brought it to the commercial sector. LLMs don't matter. GPT, Gemini, Claude, none of them matter unless they attach value to your business data, your logic. That's why Apple thinks there's going to be a moat with LLMs attached to your data on the iPhone to make them operational. Other than that, they're just toys. They're literally just toys. So if you believe in chips, aka the GPU build out to train the models, then you have to build in the software applications, the third order derivative companies that make sense of what the GPUs are training in the first place, which is an ontology. And it's such a simple thesis. If anyone ever asks what Palantir is, just clip the past minute of me explaining that and send it to them. And that's it. It's not a black box. It's not that complicated to make AI useful. You need to structure your data. That's what an ontology is. And that's what companies are paying millions and millions of dollars for. Tariq, thank you for the $5 super chat. I'm up 230%, Amit. Thanks for your hard work. Thank you for being here. That's the part that makes me the most happy, when people are up big on their Palantir stock because you've been consuming the content, holding on to it. And just being a part for the ride, dude. Being a part for the journey, because it's been so much fun covering it every single day, and they've given me a lot of stuff to cover, given all these deals they put out for the past 3 years. And it's nice to know we weren't all crazy for buying it, because there was actually something that was happening in Palantir. Exciting stuff. So there you go. Let me call Steve. Let's call Steve. Let's get him on the phone, and let's get his take on Palantir. He just put out a new article as well. I'll share that in a second. Let's see if he can pick up, and we'll get his thoughts. Palantir Weekly tonight, by the way, 10 p.m. It'll be a fun one, and we'll be talking. Steven Fiorillo, you're on the Market Close. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I am doing pretty good. Steve, let me ask you a question. Did you, by any chance, take a look at Palantir's stock price today?
I seem to remember somebody telling me that Snowflake was going to outperform Palantir.
I remember that person too. I wonder what his name is.
I seem to remember that somebody was trying to tell me that. And I said, Sloopin's leaving, dead company.
I remember that person. You know what, Steve? I think that person, you know what they did today?
I saw what that person did, but don't say it, because I don't want to. We're not going to give anybody any inclination about who this person is.
Chris bought Palantir, folks.
Why did you say his name?
Dude, he called into my Market Open and he literally said I was wrong. I don't know if you saw that, but he called me and he was like, yeah, I was wrong. And I was like, well, we tried to tell you for a long time, but it's funny too, because you, me, Adam, like a lot of us tried to tell Chris he was wrong on this, but he didn't want to budge on this one.
Yeah, I mean, look, I texted him. I said, thank God you got out of your short position, because this is never going to trade at a valuation that makes sense to the majority of people. I think this is going to be one of those stocks, just like Tesla or Amazon. Tesla still is. Amazon is getting more realistic valuation. But I think this is going to be one of those stocks that just gets a multiple and continues to grow.
So
I think that this is just the beginning.
Okay. I'm going to put your article in the chat. You had a great article on Palantir. I want to break down a lot of the elements of their earning, really dissect it step by step, and then I'll get your broader thoughts on the macro right now.
So if you want to do that, let's do that in 5 minutes so I can be in front of a computer screen.
Okay. Do you want to just join the stream? I can send you a StreamYard.
Yeah, I'll join the stream. I'm like 6 blocks away. So
okay, perfect. All right.
We'll stay on, and then when I go upstairs, I'll just join the stream. But
okay.
Yeah, I think you just wrote my new my title for my next article.
What's the title?
Normalizing $30. I think that's a great title for whenever I do another article on Palantir.
Yeah, I agree, because we need to make it normal, right? Like if it feels normal, people will buy in at 30 and not feel like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm paying 30. And obviously that'll be good for the stock and the broader company. So.
Yeah, I mean, I have a real serious situation. I got to figure out if I'm going to exit PayPal and just dump that into Palantir at this point.
Yeah, I think one thing about this price action is making a lot of people recognize if they have losers in their portfolio or just not things they're not excited about, do you cut those and you go into your higher convictions? Obviously, Palantir is one of those higher conviction names, right?
And I'm not saying Palantir can't go down. Palantir can go to 25 or 20.
Oh, it could go. It could go back to 20, 100%. It could.
I mean, there's no question about that. But at that point, I'll just cut something else and just keep buying. I mean, at this point, I am planning on altering my future monthly allocation cycle, and Palantir is going to be in the rotation for a monthly allocation at this point.
Yeah, and speaking of it going down or people selling, SEC filing just dropped. Ryan Taylor, Chief Revenue Officer of Palantir, just sold 249,000 shares today. I think this is to be, yeah, I think this is to be expected, guys. I mean, the stock's up 70% year to date. Insiders are going to take profit. They have, they've been holding this thing for decades. So,
but at the same time, when did he come on board with Palantir?
Yeah, I think it's been at least 10 years. So he's been on.
So, and this is what I have to say to that. Anybody who's been in a privately held company for that long, this guy has been getting stock awards for so long as part of his compensation that he couldn't sell in the open market. You had a lockup period, and now he deserves to be able to sell without criticism. I'm fine with that.
I agree. Dude, 100% agreed. I mean, I think a lot of these people also do. They have heavy tax bills that they need to pay. So
exactly.
A lot of this stuff ends up just being, stuff that has to get done. But the broader point is if insiders selling and the company's financials are not matching the growth, then it's like, all right, well, they're just cashing out. But we'll talk when you join the stream. The earnings are matching the expectations that investors have.
I got a phone call from my buddy, Dr. Mike, and he's like, I'm looking at my portfolio today, and he was like, you were right on just about everything. And he's like, my money guy who actually handles this shit, you're outperforming him by quite a bit. I said, yeah, no shit. So he wasn't telling you to buy Southern Company, was he?
You're outperforming his financial advisor.
Yes.
It's always a good feeling, right?
By quite a bit.
That's always a good feeling. All right, so I just emailed you the link. Join in like a couple minutes, and then we'll dissect earnings.
Yeah, I should. I'll be on like 5-6 minutes.
Okay, no worries. Bye.
Bye.
All right, so Steve will be on. We'll talk more about Palantir earnings. You'll get a little Palantir Weekly with me and Steve on the close today, breaking it down, and then on actual Palantir Weekly, we'll have the whole panel go even deeper. Okay, so we'll get back to Palantir. CleanSpark, where's CleanSpark right now? Is it still down? CleanSpark is 1131. They're down. Oh, we're down 1%. So they're recovering a little bit. Bitcoin, by the way, kind of a boring day, down basically 1%, 60,829. Last night it was just like mooning 62,000. And it was really taking off, and then the momentum kind of stopped. Let me check the Bitcoin ETFs today. So here's the ETFs. The ETFs have been pretty nasty the whole week with the sell-off. So on August 5th, the ETFs lost 168 million. August 6th, 148 million. August 7th, they gained 45 million. And then yesterday, they gained 194 million. And then August 2nd, they lost 237 million. So still ETFs have about 17 billion in Bitcoin across BlackRock, Fidelity, all those guys. But they are a bit down from their highs at the beginning of July. So ETFs showing some momentum, but not the most over the recent sell-off. What other earnings did we have today? I mean, that was pretty much it. It was really just CleanSpark. Nothing else was exciting. Last week, yesterday, here were the companies that had earnings. Archer ended the day down 8%. Elf, wow, Elf 14% down. Elf took a beating. Paramount flat. Trade Desk up 12%. Trade Desk, great day for Trade Desk. Advertising tech company, not bad. Unity got upgraded. They're up 8%. Dropbox up 3%. SoundHound down 6%. Grindr was up 8% today. And Rocket Lab up 12.5% on the day as well. Cindy says, I'm outperforming my financial advisor. Well, the thing about financial advisors is they're trying to minimize risk so that you keep paying them the 1 or 2% that you pay them. So a lot of it's just S&P and then maybe some stock picks here or there, but most of them don't have the guts to really pick stocks because they want to keep things safe, right? I was talking to my friend, and he's like a family friend, one of my dad's friends. We were at this party on last Saturday, and he knows I'm into the stock market and stuff. So he came up to me and he said, I have a story for you. And I was like, what happened? So he was telling his financial advisor to either to not buy individual stocks, right? He was like, don't buy individual stocks. The dude starts buying individual stocks. Then he said, okay, if you're going to buy individual stocks, please just buy Nvidia. The dude starts buying a stock that when he told me the name of the stock and then he told me the story, I couldn't help but feel bad for him because it's kind of illegal. Like I would sue the guy, to be honest. If there was an explicit in writing, hey, don't do this, and then you start doing this, and then you mess up that bad, there might be some lawsuits involved, dude. He bought Intel. He bought Intel heavy at $30. And Intel obviously collapsed. And so what made it worse is not just Intel, it's that he didn't want individual stock risk. He didn't want any individual stock risk. And the dude started buying individual stocks. If I have a financial advisor and I tell you to do one thing and you do the other thing, and like you don't get my permission for it, you're done, bro. Like I don't know how. Like I'm confused even how he kept him on as a financial advisor. Well, one thing he did say is he's very busy, so he was supposed to have a meeting about it, but it kept getting delayed, which I understand, right? Especially if you're in the corporate America and stuff. But dude, if you don't want individual stocks and you don't want to deal with that risk, and your guys doing individual stocks and they suck at picking stocks and they pick fucking Intel at the local top, like I'm suing you, bro. Like that's ridiculous. You can't mess up that badly. So it was sad, dude. It was really sad when he told me that because he's just a regular guy. He's like 45 years old. You know, he has his money saved up in his retirement accounts and all that stuff. Like, so I'm always skeptical of financial advisors, but I think the more money you get, the more it's important to listen to these people. But then managing money necessarily might not be always the best thing in the world. All right, we got Dan Ives on Bloomberg. Let's get his thoughts on the new Cisco layoffs that have just been announced today. Intel and Cisco laying off people, and broader layoffs in tech. And then we'll get Steve on in a little bit.
Look, I mean, they continue to have struggles, similar to what we see with Intel. And I think you're really seeing almost a have and a have-nots in tech. And I think Cisco is struggling. And this just speaks to some of the I think issues they're going to have. But look, you cannot cut your way to growth. And that's going to be the issue for Cisco going forward.
Just looking a little bit more at that point that you can't cut your way to growth. I mean, this is not obviously the only company that's doing job cuts. I mean, Alex was just talking about this at the start of the hour. What's your take on what the legs are, what the momentum is for job cuts in the industry? Are these all one-offs, or is this something that we're going to be seeing more of?
Look, Cisco's in the right lane going to 45 miles an hour. And so many of the rest of tech and AI, they're in a Bugatti going 100 miles an hour in the left lane. And I think what's going to happen here is you'll continue to see layoffs. I mean, look, if you looked up disaster in the dictionary, you'd see Intel. Look at Cisco. It's a have and have nots. There's actually a lot of growth that's happening in tech in terms of what we're seeing from hiring, but it's really the strong that are getting stronger. But look, that's why Cisco did Splunk acquisition and others. They're going to have to really do that through M&A.
Well, to that point then, is this just basically companies are diverting a lot of their spending to AI stuff, so their other stuff is not being spent on, which hurts guys like Cisco? You can also make an argument that it hurt Five9, for example, the software company. Like, is that what we're seeing?
Look, I think to some extent. But look, Cisco's had struggles for decades. I mean, it's really been on the wrong side of trends. They're trying to get into the right side of the trend. Look, AI it's disrupting sales cycle. It's taking spending from other areas. And that's why the strength we see in Microsoft, in Alphabet, and Amazon, of course, godfather of AI, Jensen, NVIDIA, and others, you also see weakness in others. And that's why in tech, it's really you're either on one side or the other. And right now, unfortunately, Cisco's on the outside looking in.
Can you talk a little bit about the equity sell-off? And, I've seen some comments that this has removed some of the froth in big tech, and maybe it's a time to get back in. What do you make of that?
I think this was a golden buying opportunity. I mean, that's always been our view in terms of these macro fear, white knuckle events. The AI party is still 9 p.m. in a party that goes to 4 a.m. And I
know everyone's smiling because we've heard him say this PM parties metaphor so many times, but I mean, I think NVIDIA is going to prove that he's probably right about that.
Going to have scares. I'm not going to say it's going to be 100% smooth, but everything we're seeing fundamentally and what we're seeing from our checks continue to show growth's going to be there. And I think we're going to see this tech bull market. It has sea legs. But look, the bears, they've been raw. Bears have been obviously hesitant on this. and they'll continue to come out in terms of fears like we saw this week.
Do you think, what kind of risk event do you think NVIDIA earnings at the end of the month is going to be? Because I think we have Jackson Hole on the same week. So it's going to be a lot. Plus, it's the last week in August, right into Labor Day weekend. What risk event are we set up for here?
I think that's to get at the popcorn moment in terms of NVIDIA. I mean, even if you look at TSMC and some of the breadcrumbs going into this robust demand in terms of what we see. And I think right now, the street needs to see that to just give further credence. What we saw in Microsoft, Palantir, Alphabet, ServiceNow, and others in terms of monetization happen in AI. But that's me one of the most anticipated earnings calls for hearing from Jensen and NVIDIA probably in the last 4 or 5 years.
So let's look past that earning call, and we're looking at late September. We've had perhaps a 25 basis point Fed rate cut, maybe even 50. But what we're also going to be seeing is probably more evidence that the economy is slowing. So what does that do to the demand story for all of this AI?
Look, but right now, I mean, balance sheets are as healthy as they probably have ever been. I mean, if you go back to the last decade or more, and you look at a once in a 40-year cycle in terms of AI spend, and as this sort of, I'll call them as a Goldilocks scenario plays out, we get through September, I think 2025 numbers come up in terms of for tech, and you're going to have more and more investors needing to play these names going into the next year because of where the growth is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that continues to be the issue. Growth is in tech, and that's why I'd rather pay up to play these names that continue to outperform.
Let's go to TMC.
I think that's a fair point, dude. I mean, if it, like, and this is the argument around Palantir as well, right? If growth is coming from tech, like when you're buying a stock, you're buying growth at the end of the day. You're either buying a dividend or you're buying growth. And the dividend is fine, but you're taking on some risk with capital deappreciation if the stock falls and there's a problem with the company. And if you're not buying a dividend, then you're trying to buy some level of compounded growth. And for the stock price to reflect the future growth, the company needs to grow. So if you're paying a premium for growth, the question that I have become very infatuated with is, am I paying a premium for growth in an unsustainable environment where that growth is not sustainable, or where that premium becomes ridiculous? And in 2021, both of the answers to those questions was yes. The growth was not sustainable because of the macro and rates being starting to go up. And then the premiums were ridiculous because rates were so low that asset prices were inflated beyond imagination with NFTs, things like that. So I think both those answers now have changed, right? Growth is sustainable in 2024, and the tailwind is AI, and every company in the world realizing they need an AI opportunity. And then the second answer is the premium ridiculous? And I don't think it is, because if the growth is there, then it starts to justify the cutting of the PE ratios. And, Palantir at $45 back in 2021, January, when it was almost $100 billion market cap doing, barely $2 billion in revenue. That was insane. Now you tell me Palantir is $70-80 billion market cap doing close to $3 billion in revenue, still pricey, but not insane. And so then it just becomes a question of, is the market willing to give a certain premium? And I think that's what we're seeing right now. All right, folks, we have our resident contributor joining the market close on a Friday. And we're going to break down everything in the world of Palantir. Steve, how are you?
Good. What's going on?
I love that we can only see your eyes. So that was funny. Why do you have a brick wall background? Why don't you have your hotel background like you?
Because I'm trying to be like you.
Interesting.
I want to be like you when I grow up.
I know people are going to say your bricks look realer than mine, but
which is crazy because they're computer generated.
Dude, I posted a picture. I gotta say this. I posted a picture of a selfie of me before Palantir earnings, and I didn't realize like the bricks in the background were like they were curling. And then Chad commented under, he was like, "Your bricks are curling." I was like, "Oh." This was
so real quick. How many people do you have for Palantir Weekly tonight?
You're welcome to join, dude. We have, I don't know, we have 4 or 5 people. So,
is there any way that you can use that GIF that I sent you and put all of our faces?
Oh, I gotta show this. This is such a good one. Yeah, I can work something up in Canva. I can do something.
I mean, it is the fact that you still haven't watched this movie is heartbreaking.
It's from some Tombstone movie, guys. He's saying
some Tombstone movie.
He's saying I need to like put our faces on there. I'll see what I can do today. I'll see what I can do for the thumbnail. I'll see.
With Senor Carp in the center. Maybe on Morgan's face.
All right, so let's get into this, Steve. You and I have been covering the company for a long time. Give me your high-level thoughts, then we'll take it stat by stat. What did you think of this earnings?
I mean, they were so good. I don't know that you can say anything else. The amount of articles I'm seeing just flood into my feed from all these different sites about Palantir is nuts. And you know what? The only thing that I think is left for the bear case is valuation. I think that's the only thing that's left for the bear case. I think everything else has been dismantled across the board.
I think so too. The biggest bear case besides valuation a couple of years ago was go to market, and that has been easily dismantled.
That's gotten solved pretty quickly with boot camps.
Yep. And
Pretty
just
quickly.
yeah, and on the earnings call, in the beginning, I think they said it took they got a 7-figure deal after 7 days of a boot camp. It's like, what? It's really showing, hey, if you show them the value, then they're going to decide to convert, which is the best way to sell software, it seems. Okay, so let's take it segment by segment. Let me actually pull up your article. We'll just take it from there. So I think the biggest thing you've been excited about on the growth side is the customer count. So let's start with that. What are your thoughts on customer count, and why do you think that is a precursor to further growth?
Because the only opinion that matters is customers. Doesn't matter what my opinion is, doesn't matter what your opinion is, doesn't matter what the Bear Cave's opinion is. What matters is growing customers, because they're the ones that are paying Palantir their revenue and keeping the lights on and generating growth for shareholders. And it just proves that more and more companies are finding extreme value in implementing Palantir software. It's just the figures really are becoming off the charts. And you would know this more than me. AIP, when did it launch? Last September?
It launched officially April of 2023. June is when I think they started the boot camps, or maybe May. So basically, it's been a year and a half, a little bit.
All right. A little bit more than a year, because we're in August. So like a year and a quarter. So 15 months. So in 15 months, they've already completed over 1,000 AIP boot camps.
Yeah, I think it's like 1,300 or something. That was the number.
It's a lot. I mean, on the earnings call, it said 1,025 AIP boot camps. And you look at the customer growth. I mean, I don't want to read word for word, but I don't have the numbers memorized. But Q2, Palantir added 40 commercial clients, which was 9.37% of their count, and it grew to 467. I mean, when you look at this and you look at that customer count, they've added, Palantir basically has answered all the questions as their commercial customer base grew by 407 clients to 467 since Q1 of 2021. They've grown 678%, their commercial count. That was the big question. Palantir's a black box. We don't know what it does. It's just a military industrial complex company, blah, blah, blah. Can't translate to commercial. Obviously, that thesis is now destroyed. Completely has translated to commercial. What's wrong?
Sorry, your internet blocked out. You're like really fuzzy.
Did it?
Hold on. Yeah, it's you. You're very fuzzy. You're very fuzzy. You froze.
You want me to come back in, or am I good?
Come back in. Come back in for sure. Come back in. Yeah, he's buzzy, guys, right? Yeah, he needs to get some better internet. But yeah, his internet isn't good in prison, dude. Dude, every time someone mentions prison, now that I'm watching this show, I'm just like so deep into like the concept of jail and prisons now. But yeah, I think Steve's right about this commercial customer account. We'll talk about this more on Palantir Weekly, but this is the biggest thing. And Arnie, I got to give Arnie credit on this, because he was the first person I remember that it really, when he explained it to me back in, let's call it May of 2023, when he said, hey, customer count growing means that revenue growing is irrelevant because the revenue is inevitably going to come from the customers after they convert. That's when I started to even understand, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like, you don't really need to worry about top line revenue growth that much if the commercial customer count is growing. And obviously those numbers have been very, very strong. You're back.
Yeah, I took the VPN off, so hopefully that helps.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I agree with you. Customer count is the precursor to a lot of the success. And you believe that, or let me ask you this question. They basically have 600 customers. Where do you think that goes by 2025? Do you think they get to like 1,000, 1,500? How do you think that compounds?
Well, what's the stat right now that Palantir just produced their second best quarter for combined deals over $1 million, and they added 156 new deals above $1 million in Q2.
Yep.
And let's see,
27 were worth 10 million, 33 were worth 5 million, or at least 5 million. Because I think, dude, if they're at 593 customers, I mean, they're growing customer count about 7% quarter over quarter. If that starts to accelerate, now this did deaccelerate the rate of growth of customer count, but that doesn't matter that much because
that doesn't matter when you're growing.
Yeah, that doesn't matter when you're growing top line. So if that goes back to 8-9% quarter over quarter, I think by the end of 2025, we're above 1,000 customers.
So listen to this. Looking back to the first half of 2023, Palantir had added 208 new deals worth over $1 million. That is increased by 37% as they have added an additional 77 deals in 2024, bringing their total deals across Q1 and Q2 to 285 deals over $1 million or more. And we know that net dollar retention does not account for any companies that signed a deal in the past 12 months because they haven't given their first 12 months of revenue. So the number that I came up with is, and can you bring up the deal slide that it's underneath the commercial customer count.
Yeah.
So Palantir's net dollar retention in Q2 is 114%. And it's based on customers trailing 12 months. Palantir's net dollar retention right now is based on 421 customers. At this time next year, it'll be based on 593. So thinking about what that could be on a compounding basis, I think that we haven't even scratched the surface of what Palantir is going to be over the next 5 years, because as they continue to bring on clients and as more companies go into the net dollar retention and Palantir continues to upsell them on new products and new features, this could be a baby Salesforce. I don't even know if baby is the right word. This could be a Salesforce-esque company in the next 5 to 7 years.
Dude, okay, so here's the thing. Here's the thing about Salesforce. CRM's market cap, all right, is fucking 250. Palantir, let's just call it 70 right now, is worth 28%. Palantir is worth let's call it 30%. Palantir is 30% of Salesforce's market cap. Salesforce is going to do 40 billion this year in revenue. Palantir is going to do, let's just say 3. So Palantir is trading at, I mean, a very expensive multiple compared to Salesforce, given how much revenue they do versus the market cap. So here's my question to you. Why do you think Salesforce has a 250 billion market cap doing 40 billion in revenue? Palantir has a 70 billion market cap doing 2.7 billion in revenue.
Well, I think Salesforce is grossly undervalued. That's one. I don't think it's a great valuation on Salesforce. I think Salesforce should be probably a $500 billion company.
Wow. You think CRMs are that important?
I mean, they're extremely important. I mean, you ask anybody who has any type of consumer-facing business, they are your backbone for so much stuff. And Salesforce is just, you're not going to create another company like it. You're just not.
Yeah, but the answer is they're not growing, though. That's why the street.
I get that. But at the same time, their earnings growth year over year is in the double digits for the next 5 years projection. And they're trading at a 25 PE on this year's earnings, which drops down to a 17.5 PE in 4 years from now. I think they're grossly undervalued, especially when revenue growth is going to be between 8 and 12% each year over the next couple of years. I mean, it's not a startup. Like, it's a big company, and they're still growing revenue in the high single digits.
Okay,
And I
so
think they're just too important to be valued this low.
So then the question is, we'll go to other parts of Palantir, but let's get into this valuation discussion. Do we think the valuation, given I read off, Salesforce's numbers, is way too high if Salesforce is barely getting a multiple?
Palantir is worth what somebody's willing to pay for it, same like any other company. And markets are forward looking. If I was looking at this from a value, looking for a value company, I would not be investing in Palantir. I'd be investing in other companies that I think have a better value proposition. Looking at this as a growth company and what it can become, I think that there's a lot of fuel left in the tank for this to go higher. But if you're just looking at just straight numbers, yeah, Palantir looks stretched. I don't think that anybody that is going to talk about this objectively would say this is an undervalued company. I mean, the valuation could definitely look stretched. That doesn't mean that it can't get more stretched or that it can't continue to appreciate but grow into the valuation. I mean, look at NVIDIA. NVIDIA, and two different companies, completely different companies, different revenue, different earnings, but NVIDIA had a ridiculous market cap and a ridiculous valuation, but they grew into the valuation, and now it doesn't look so expensive anymore.
Yeah, well,
so that can definitely happen.
So you don't think you think Palantir can be seen as overvalued, but you think it can stay overvalued for a long time?
I think that people prove that stocks can trade at a ridiculous valuation when they were buying Tesla, when Tesla was nothing more than an idea, and when Tesla was nothing more than just a car company. And I'll still debate, and I'm a Tesla shareholder, and I've been a Tesla shareholder for indirectly through my wife, but for years. And I'll argue that they just became more than a car company over the past year, in my eyes.
I agree. That's fair. So then the question is, would you be buying Palantir at $30? Like you personally? Do you want to?
Yeah. I mean, I add money to the market in personal accounts outside of traditional 401s and that type of stuff once or twice a month.
Right. I
don't remember the last time I bought Palantir. I think I was buying Palantir 3 months ago, probably, or 2 months ago, when it dipped into the 23 to 25 range. I added, and Palantir is going to be in the rotation of things I'm adding to going forward. I don't care what the price is. I can't pick tops. I can't pick bottoms. I'm not surprised if this goes back down to 20 or maybe even gets to 18 if something funky happens with the market. I wouldn't be surprised if we see 35 or 40 before the year's over. Nothing would surprise me. And if you are trying to time the market, good luck. I mean, I don't know anybody that can time the market, but I am more than willing to continuously buy and have a good average price that I'm happy with down the road.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if we think the bull case is 500 billion, right? That's a $250 stock, roundabout 200 to 250. So let's say your average is 30 or 35.
Does it really matter?
Yeah, 6x, 7x still over the next decade. 700% return is way better than what the market is going to give you.
Yeah, I was saying that to one of my buddies last week. I said, "What's the difference if you pay $27.50 or $25? Every 1,000 shares, it's a couple of grand. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, if you're investing in this because you think it's going to 100, does it matter if your cost basis is $25 a share or $27.50 a share?
Yeah.
Does it matter? No.
And I like this mentality as well. And I agree with this on Steve, because it's not that you don't need to care about entry price. Like, there is a difference between 27 and 25. The problem is the mental burden you go through and the toxic relationship you develop with your cost basis versus your sanity. It's not worth it. It's not worth it for anybody.
So let's look at SL Green real quick. I was telling you and Chris about SL Green when I started telling you guys to look into it after I'd already started buying. And I started buying in the high 30s when it was crashing. Do a 5-year chart. Because the book value at that time was still, I was buying at that point the whole way down. Because the book value was, I think, 63 at that point. And it was just crashing, crashing, crashing. And I think my average price, excluding dividends, is around 23 or 24, something like that. I went pretty heavy between 21 and 19. And I had blocks of shares that I purchased that were in the high 30s. But I said, I have no idea what's going to happen. I do not believe that SL Green is in trouble. When the whole regional banking scare happened, and I said to you guys, I'm going to keep buying this into the ground because eventually it's going to recover, and it is trading at a cheaper price than it did during the great financial crisis. And look what happened.
And you told us to buy it at 1920 and made good money on it. I agree.
And I think Palantir is I'm taking the same approach. I couldn't tell you what it's got. I don't have a crystal ball. If I had a crystal ball, I'd win the lotto. Don't have a crystal ball. All I know is I think Palantir is higher in a couple of years from now than it is now. And I'll buy it up, I'll buy it down, I'll average out. It's the same mentality you take with a retirement account, putting into the 401 with the S&P 500. You just keep buying, and eventually you're going to get a good average price.
Yeah. And then when you have a share count that you're comfortable with, whether it's 10,000 shares, 5,000 shares, 7,000 shares, then you can peacefully stop because you've done the math and you're like, all right, well, this is what I'm riding with. But if you're still in the process of accumulating shares, I think it's really important to not care about cost basis. And I used to care a lot about that, but as you realize, hey, I want more of this company, then you stop. Like Robin and I'm adding again at $17.90. I was adding at $8, but I still think it's undervalued. So I want more equity versus a cost basis, you know?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at what Palantir is doing and the deals and the number of deals, I mean, the number of $10 million deals and $5 million deals this quarter is a very telling sign.
Very.
I mean,
yep.
More and more big companies are coming on with these huge deals. And that's going to compound over the next couple of years. And the deals aren't going to stop coming. That's the other thing. Palantir saw a 40% year-over-year increase in deals over $1 million, adding 53 compared to the first half of 23. And then deals over 5 million grew 15.5%, and deals over 10 million in the first half grew 62%, 77 additional deals.
I agree. So let me piggyback off that point. This slide right here, this is like one of the most important slides in the pitch deck or in the earnings deck. So large wholesale insurance brokerage firm, it took 16 days, about 2 weeks, to get to a 7-figure
That doesn't happen. That's not normal.
That's not normal.
Not normal. And I can tell you that's not normal from being in a position where I have gone through many large negotiations and many implementations and many due diligence processes, and making that type of decision in 16 days is not normal. And that's just a testament to how powerful Palantir's product is. And when you think about where this is going to end up being at this rate, and then to me, the biggest validation is Microsoft and Oracle, because they are both companies that can take a blank check approach. Microsoft, if they wanted to, could easily, and this is not an exaggeration, pull up Microsoft balance sheet real quick. Just go to Seeking Alpha and just pull up their balance sheet, because I don't want to give a bad number. I want to look at their cash on hand, because they're generating 60 or 70 billion in free cash flow a year. They could easily balance sheet, not income.
Oh, there it is.
So they have 90.1 billion in T-bills, basically, and they have 96 billion in on-hand liquidity. They could write a check tomorrow for 40 or 50 billion dollars and allocate it to R&D and hiring the top engineers and trying to compete in anything AI on a software perspective. If they felt that that was the best use of their capital, and what did they decide to do? Partner with Palantir.
I agree. I agree. And we'll talk more about the Microsoft Palantir partnership in a second. But this thing right here, I want to get your opinion on this stat, Steve. So this boot camp, 16 days later, seven-figure deal, then enterprise-wide contract in discussion. They did that with a leading global life sciences company, enterprise-wide contract in discussion after a boot camp, and then a leading convenience store chain. Now they're potentially in an enterprise-wide contract. So I agree with you. They got to 27% year-over-year growth. What was the biggest thing you and I had to deal with as Palantir investors? They can't grow. They're low 20%. Now it's at 27%. It looks like...
Go back to that slide, because this is something everybody's going to overlook because they're just going to look at this from a numbers perspective, okay? But they need to look at this from a use case perspective. You have an insurance brokerage firm, you have a life science company, and a convenience store chain. And they're all utilizing Palantir software. Think about that. This is applicable to every industry. This isn't just a manufacturing Six Sigma type of way of increasing yield with your supplies. This is applicable to every type of industry, and they are proving it time and time again. And that makes this use case so powerful, because the deals can seriously continue to keep coming. And I think that we've just scratched the surface on the government side, because every military is going to have to go under a fundamental transition over the next.
Let me finish this one point real quick, and then we'll get to government and Microsoft. We'll get to both those. The point I'm trying to make here is that there's so much growth that's coming, and we're seeing that from those examples of whether it's a grocery chain or whatever it is, saying, hey, in 6 weeks, we're thinking of an enterprise-wide entire contract. They're at 27% year over year. They're going to get to 30% growth. We know that's coming. They know how important that number is in SaaS. The market knows that 30% SaaS growth is like premier SaaS growth. And then adjusted operating income margins and free cash flow margins are closing in on 40%. So here's my question to you. There's only two names in the software market that have grown top line ARR at 30% with adjusted operating income margins at 40%. Do you know those two names?
I feel like you're going to tell me Salesforce is one of them, and maybe SAP or Workday.
No. So the only two names, it's actually one name. The other name is getting close to that. The first name is CrowdStrike, and the other name is Palantir, potentially in the next couple quarters. Palantir it's getting very close, right? CrowdStrike's now not going to have those numbers because of everything that's going on. Most likely their Q2 guidance takes a hit, which means Palantir will be the only company in the stock market that is growing top line 30% ARR, maybe by the end of the year, early next year, and adjusted operating income margins at 40%. Having said that, do you think that is going to be what also sustains the premium on the stock? Because growing 30% top line is very difficult. And if the growth is going to go higher than 30%, 34, 35%, dare we say, by the end of 2025, then the multiple is going to get pretty ridiculous as well.
I'm going to say something silly, because this is not how investing should be. And this is not why I'm investing in Palantir. But what happens when big institutional firms turn bullish? What happens when it's included in the S&P? What happens when more and more people start talking about on Bloomberg, on CNBC, and you have more interviews where they understand the use case, and more interviews talking bullishness about this, and then more people coming in? I mean, that's not why you should invest, but it doesn't seem like there's going to be a negative narrative generated around this. And look at Ives. He just went back up. He went up to 38.
Yeah, and 50 is his bull case. And the thing you're saying about the media here is really important. Let me show everyone an example of what Steve is saying. So this is CNBC's YouTube page right here. You've got a bunch of videos. Lots of them have 1,000 views, 500 views, 600 views. Palantir co-founder Joe Lonsdale, 18,000 views. CNBC is going to say, okay, so when we talk about Palantir, we get 18,000 views. When we talk about US Foods CEO on Q2, we get 600 views. Maybe we should keep talking more about Palantir, right? Because at the end of the day, they're a media company and they want to attract more attention. So
it's not just that. That's a part of it. But when you have the traders go on to these shows and they talk about their picks and whatnot, I'd be willing to put money on it that you're going to see Palantir on that more and more.
Well, I agree. And if CNBC gets good ratings from talking about it, this has been like, that's where you also get the compounded effect of wanting to get more Palantir.
I think you're going to have more interest in it, because I still feel like this is retail heavy, and eventually it's going to become institutional heavy. This hasn't even entered the S&P 500 yet, and that is a big thing. I don't care what anybody says.
Okay, Steve, I'm going to need you to sell a couple Palantir shares and get some better Wi-Fi, because
We have a fucking storm going on.
What storm? What are you talking about?
It's a fucking windstorm. There's fucking shit down, probably.
I love when Steve curses, dude. I love it. Okay, so this Microsoft thing, why is this important? Well, what do you think this means for Palantir?
I think that this is going to be a game changer for who ends up utilizing Palantir through Microsoft's products, who they go in on deals with. Remember, the Titan deal was scrapped, and that ended up, instead of going to one company, was going to go to many different companies. And when you think about it, you have 2 out of 3 companies just teamed up to have IL6.
We lost him, folks.
No,
Are
I'm
you
here. I was waiting for you to
you
say something.
Oh, dude, dude, it's so hard to look at your screen because you look like a Nintendo character right now. Okay, sorry. Yes, only 3 companies have IL6. I thought you were frozen, dude.
No,
so I
3
was
companies have IL6, and now 2 of them are teaming up. You got to think they're going to do a lot of things with a lot of governments together.
I agree. Do you also think this is partly why Satya mentioned Palantir on that call?
Well, his signature is going to be the one on the contract, so obviously he's making a decision there, and he's going to draw attention to the company that they're about to partner with, and he's not dropping their name if he doesn't think this is going to be big.
What did you think about the Wendy's deal, powering 6,000 stores to get their supply chains effective?
Yeah, I mean, look, this is a company that's done supply chain deals with other companies, and Wendy's won't be the last.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this was a fun deal because Wendy's is a premier American brand, right?
Is McDonald's a customer?
I don't know. I know Wendy's.
Because if they're not, you got to think that they're going to be calling Carp or somebody that's high up, like, hey, we need to talk to you.
Well, here's the thing. If Wendy's is optimizing their supply chains via AI, and this goes back to everyone saying AI is fake, McDonald's is going to be at a competitive disadvantage if they're not optimizing supply chains with AI. Same thing with Burger King and KFC. And so there's a lot of industries that are going to be touched by this. And maybe it's not Palantir winning all those deals, but Palantir is going to start grabbing a lot more of them than we think. Okay, this government business. I think this is one of Palantir's best moats, right? Sticky, reliable government revenue. Where do you see that catering over the next 5 years?
I don't know if we can really put a growth rate on it, but I think it's going to be big. I think there's going to be a lot of optimization. I think there's going to be a lot of new platforms. And I just think the military is going to be going under a big shift. It's going to become more software, more AI focused, and the next tier of subs, warships, tanks. You're going to see Palantir be more embedded in these things, I think.
Yeah, I think that Maven contract was a signal that they are going to get a lot more of these. It's really hard to work with the government. That Microsoft deal was about the government.
Yeah.
So
so was the Oracle deal. Oracle was dual. And once again, Oracle can take a blank check. If Oracle wanted to spend $20 billion on R&D for something, they could easily do it. Look, the biggest thing for me, and I think other people should, thank you very much, I think people should really take into consideration is Oracle and Microsoft are 2 of the biggest companies with 2 of the biggest moats. They've been doing software for a very long time. They've pioneered the software industry to some degree. They know how to compete. They have put companies out of business. They can't compete with Palantir. They don't want to compete with Palantir. They want to partner with Palantir. That should tell everybody something. That says no matter how much money we throw at this, it's not worth it. And the better ROI is partnering with Palantir. So why is anybody trying to fight this? It doesn't make sense.
I agree. That's a good point, dude. Microsoft could have made, and Oracle tried to buy Palantir a while ago, right? And Carp didn't give it up. Microsoft could have tried to compete with Fabric or whatever they're doing, but they make so much money off compute and the cloud that I don't think they care about this enough to really try to compete. So if that's the case, then they're going to partner instead.
Yeah, I mean, look, Microsoft just bought Activision. Microsoft bought LinkedIn. They buy companies to embed them into their ecosystem. They are very happy allocating capital for M&A. They're very happy growing things homegrown. I mean, they are built Dynamics, which is a competitor to SAP, Oracle's ERP system, and other ERP systems. They do things both organically and through M&A. They're not doing either in the realm that Palantir plays in. They're partnering.
Right.
That tells you everything you need to know.
All right. So that's the
It's,
conversation.
it's Microsoft. Like if anybody says that Microsoft can't allocate tens of billions of dollars to compete in a specific area, they know nothing about investing or financial markets.
Look what they did to Slack, to Zoom. I mean, they've put so many companies.
Yeah. Zoom is still the acronym for video conferencing, yet Teams is all I get invites to.
Yeah. So do I. I got a Teams invite last week, and it was annoying being in Teams, but like everyone uses it. It's like it is deeply it's deeply ingrained in the enterprise. Palantir is an enterprise product. They could try to compete. They just don't realize. I don't think they want to. CodeStrap's comment here. The reason companies opt for alternatives is they think Palantir is expensive, a black box, and vendor locked. 3 myths I'm working very hard to dispel. Steve, what do you think about that myth now about Palantir being a black box? What would you say to someone who says that, not only as an investor, but as someone trying to understand the company?
What I would say to them is that argument was dispelled years ago, and it's just taking hold now because you have more and more public companies that are on the commercial side discussing their use cases with Palantir. Palantir live streams their conferences. There is no secret. Like, I don't understand why people get so up in a twist about Palantir and their government side. They can't talk about certain things. Get over it. Like, I don't know what you want anybody to say. And even what they do with the government is not going to be applicable to a commercial company. So what does it matter? Worry about what's applicable to you. And they have a product for obviously pretty much everything. When you look at the companies that are basically saying Palantir has overhauled our business, from BP to Cisco to Tyson Foods to Panasonic Energy to the healthcare systems.
Yeah, I also think if you just read some of these government contracts, because they publicly put out the paragraph summaries and all that stuff, it's a lot of just like analyzing and constructing data. Like, yeah, obviously there's stuff they can't say in defense, but it's not that much of a black box. But a lot of people don't want to spend the time to do the research, which I understand. But then you can't call it a black box if the
5 minutes. You don't even have to read. You don't even have to read anything. If you just scroll through 3 of their quarterly presentations, you would understand that it's not a black box.
Yeah.
You just look at the quotes from the public company representatives. Not really a black box.
So did you listen to the call, Steve, the actual earnings call?
Of course.
Okay. So Sham mentioned a new product called Warp Speed, which he described this as an operating system for American manufacturing. Now,
Real quick, what should I get from the diner?
From the what? The diner?
From the diner, where I'm having delivery. My wife just asked me, what do I want? What should I get?
Okay, I'm a shrimp Alfredo pasta guy.
From a diner?
Yeah, they don't have diner. They don't have shrimp Alfredo pasta at a diner. Okay, if you need want like breakfast food, then
no. You and I have to have a serious conversation.
Dude, the diners in New Jersey have shrimp Alfredo pasta.
I'm not saying they don't, but why would you ever get? You go to.
What do you get? Okay, what do you get from a diner? Chicken fingers? Like, what do you get?
I'm gonna get probably a burger medium, or like
you could go to Burger King for that. You don't need it from a diner.
Or
okay, get your burger.
Or maybe breakfast for dinner, nice Belgian waffle with some eggs. I mean,
I'm not opposed to breakfast for dinner, but
I'm not opposed to breakfast for dinner either.
Mick gets gas station sushi. Wow, this is how you embarrass me. Okay, so yes, get the Belgian waffles. But Sham said Warp Speed. It's this it's an operating system for American manufacturing. Oh, get some pie, by the way. CodeStrap says you got to get pie.
Oh, gotta get CodeStrap. I agree. Without a question, gotta get the pie.
We're gonna get more details on this product, but based on what you heard, what do you think that product is? And do you think American manufacturing, given a lot of it has gone offshore, needs a product like what Sham's talking about?
Yeah, we absolutely need it. I cannot wait to see, because it seems like this is going to be the next iteration of their products, and I'm very excited. And look, here's the other thing. As an American, I am super excited about being a shareholder of Palantir, because they are making our government and our allies operate in the most efficient and best way possible, and they're bringing the best out of American companies, and I love that. So, and I'm going to make a blanket statement. At some point, I will be selling my shares. Way down the line, I will never sell all my shares, so I can always be a Palantir shareholder.
Dude, I'm feeling the same, bro. Like, I want to have these shares for a long time because if you believe in the growth story, you believe it's compounding, and you believe in America, it's one of those things where, you know, I know you're not going to comment on this, Steve, but in the United Kingdom, they're now getting to the point where they're literally saying, hey, think before you tweet, because they're prosecuting certain people. And in terms of, it's like, it's getting kind of insane. And you need a company that actually stands up for American values. So in the context of that concept, like defending Western values, that used to be scary for Palantir a couple years ago because people thought like it was white supremacist or something to say you're defending Western values. I think the tone has switched. Canceled culture has calmed down a little bit. Do you think over the next decade that is a tailwind for Palantir as more and more companies are starting to say, all right, we don't need to care that much about ESG, but we do need to care about profit margins because the economy is what matters at the end of the day. And that also helps them because if Palantir provides value, they go with Palantir.
In a free market society, competition breeds competition and the best companies survive. And I think Palantir is going to help the best companies survive.
I agree. And I think it's going to be that simple of a pitch as they begin to scale their operations as well.
Yeah, I'm very excited. I'm very bullish. I think that this is just the beginning. You just need time. I mean, that's all you need is time. And we'll see what happens. I mean, this is years and years and years of compounding that we're about to go through. And seeing how the net dollar retention is going to add to the top and bottom line over the next couple of years is going to be so exciting. I'm not even excited for next year. I'm excited for 3 years from now because all these deals will be adding to net dollar retention.
And this number, by the way, guys, this was 107 3 quarters ago. So this has really started to accelerate again, which is important because it was declining in 2023 and now it's back. I think the most impressive thing, Steve, and then I have another question for you on Palantir, is that they're doing this profitably. All like they like speak to
hard
that.
To be there, hard to not think that a company is strong when you got $4 billion in cash and zero debt. Just saying.
Snowflake's still not profitable yet.
No, Snowflake just loses money.
Any thoughts on Snowflake now? Any updated thoughts on?
Yeah, I mean, didn't I text you the other day that it's starting to somewhat look interesting?
I think so. You might have.
Like it's. I think what I text you is it's the cheapest valuation it's been since it's been public. And remember, I wanted to invest in Snowflake and I refused to because Benioff and Buffett drove the valuation to a point where it didn't make sense. It's starting to make sense from a valuation standpoint for me, but I haven't been following the business because Slootman left.
Would you rather buy Palantir at 30 or Snowflake at 120?
Palantir 30 all day long, every day.
See,
doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
Like Slootman was the real reason I wanted to invest in Snowflake because of what Snowflake would theoretically be able to do. And Slootman is just a true operator. But with him out of the case, I don't even know if it's something I want to touch or mess around with.
Okay. So last question for you on Palantir, then we'll get into macro. I want you to give me a one-word answer to this question, then explain your answer. So we have Palantir has many industries they operate in. Defense. Well, let's exclude defense because that's just government. Space, healthcare, energy, logistics. Which of those industries do you think ends up being the biggest growth driver for them over the next decade? If you had to pick one. I'll pull up more that they operate in. Let me give you some other health and life sciences, financial services, ecosystem, data protection, anti-money laundering, readiness, semiconductors.
Yeah, I've read all the industries. I know what they are. You don't
so
have
which
to
one do you think wins? I have an answer in my head, but I'm curious what you think.
It's hard because I think it could be very big. So first, you got to think about what the TAM is in each of them, and then how much of the market Palantir can capture. But the answer may surprise you, but I think healthcare could be the one.
I was going to say
healthcare. Fact
I was going to say
that
healthcare.
They already have 22% of all U.S. hospital beds, and when you get some of the bigger places that they don't currently have, looking at what they're doing with Cleveland Clinic, Tampa General, I think that becomes something where they can grow to 40%, 50% of the market in that area.
I agree. Most of the deals they've got this year, if you just look at their deals website, it's mainly healthcare.
Yeah.
Got a
I
couple
think
energy.
healthcare could definitely, that would be the one that I pick.
Agree. Absolutely agreed. All right. So that is your guys' preview of Palantir Weekly. I'll be live again at 10 p.m. tonight. But Steve,
If anybody leaves a comment in the article, I will interact with you on Seeking Alpha.
Yeah, let me put his article. If you guys could just click on it, check it out, really helps Steve. And Steve, how many articles have you written now on Seeking Alpha? Like,
let's see.
It's like in the thousands at this point.
Oh, wow. It is in the thousands.
Has to be.
1,010, I think.
Wow. That's a lot of articles. See,
I
my
didn't even realize that.
videos on YouTube for me are like, I've done 3,000 videos. You've done 1,000 articles. Like it's different mediums, but it's consistent content. Okay. Macro Monday.
Yeah.
How did you feel on Monday? We had the worst crash since COVID on Monday. What did you do?
I was buying. I was buying. I told you I was buying.
I know. I got your text that you were buying. Why were you buying on Monday?
Because and I'm not going to say who asked me this, but the amount of text messages that I got asking me what a carry trade was.
Yeah.
People, look, greed is always going to be there. For people who really follow this, there's always going to be an arbitrage play that people try to exploit. And people that have a lot of time on their hands and resources are always going to try to find a way to squeeze out margin, especially when you are an institutional investor and your job and your book depends on it. Sometimes central banks raise rates, and sometimes you can't foresee that. And sometimes that throws a 10-leg investment, not thesis, but investment, what's the word I'm looking for? Cycle, because you have all these other things that depend on it, throws it out of whack. And you get a margin call if you're on margin. I mean, it is what it is. Who cares? I don't care that people are borrowing in yen to try to pay back less money in USD because USD currency is appreciating and yen is devaluing to squeeze out extra margin. That hurts short-term investors, not long-term investors. I didn't think it was going to cause a global meltdown. I think people that got greedy were going to get stomped out. And I don't care. I don't invest for next month. So to me, it was a buying opportunity, especially since I think we're going to melt up in the fall.
What did you buy when it was collapsing?
What did I buy?
I think you bought some Google, Nvidia.
I bought Google or Alphabet. I bought Amazon. I bought, what did I buy?
I think you bought more Intel. Did you buy more?
Did I buy more? I got to look. I was buying in two different accounts. Intel, I think I bought more last week. I actually bought some more Ares Capital, Starwood, Blackstone Secure Lending.
So you saw it as an opportunity, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, I was buying a bunch of different stuff.
Okay, so you said melt up in the fall. Yeah. What is your thesis now after the crash we had on Monday for why we get a melt up in the fall?
Well, look, anybody who's screaming emergency rate cut doesn't understand economics.
That's what Jeffrey Siegel.
You don't want an emergency rate cut.
Why?
You just don't want it because that signals that things are terrible. You don't want it. Sends the wrong message. The Fed should have cut in freaking May without a question, and we should already be in the cycle. But you don't want an emergency rate cut. What happened globally with the central bank in Japan has nothing to do with going on here. And rates are too high. Carrying costs on consumer debt's too high. Carrying costs on U.S. debt is too high. It's all too high. But the Fed is going to enter a cutting cycle. Maybe we get a 50 basis point cut in September instead of 25. And I think maybe we see a full 100 bips off of the rate by the end of the year instead of 50 bips. Could even see more, but it's going to create a better operating environment for small and medium-sized businesses. They're going to be able to refinance high debt next year at a better rate. Their profit models will look a little better, and small, medium, and large scale businesses will be more incentivized to borrow to expand because you'll have small rates. What does that mean? That means that a lot of money is going to get spent in the economy. It'll flow up to the biggest companies. You're going to need more cloud. So now Amazon and Microsoft are a winner. You're going to need more products in your offices. You're going to need more electric. You're going to need more of pretty much everything, from computers to software. Any company that is using an ERP system is going to have more licenses because they'll be expanding. So I think it's bullish for the market. And I think that as long as we get unemployment under control, and I think you have to cut rates to get unemployment under control. I don't see another way. You need a better operating environment so people hire. I think we can push off a recession and maybe not see a recession until 2026, 2027. I don't think we have to have a recession in 25 if the Fed actually brings rates down.
You think they can nail a soft landing is what you're saying?
It's getting harder and harder. I think that I think right now it's 50-50 whether they do or they don't. I don't think we're in a recession right now, but if they don't cut rates and make it where companies expand, I think a recession's imminent by Q2 2025.
So and the Fed's not stupid. They have to know that to some extent, which means September, I think you would imagine we get a cut. Like, is there any doubt in your mind that September we don't get a cut?
They don't cut. I mean, they don't cut in September. I would be very worried.
Yeah.
Very worried.
I think we're screwed.
I mean, you fire everybody in the Fed position at that point.
Yeah, and the only logic is that inflation is too high, but I think
Who cares? It's make me Fed chair. Please make me Fed chair. Like, look, they have a dual mandate. I'll argue this every day, 5 times on Sunday. Maximum employment's more important than price stability.
Well, hold on. Let me push back on that. Inflation ruins nations, right?
Inflation at 30%.
But even if inflation at 6 or 7% is not
if
good.
If you're going to the grocery store and you have $100 to spend,
right?
If inflation is at 2%, that means you're going to pay $102 next year. If inflation's at 4%, you're going to pay $104. Inflation's at 5%, you're going to pay $105. Do you really care about spending an extra $2, $4, or $5 versus maximum employment and people having jobs with job growth? Eventually, the free markets will work themselves out. You'll have more competition, and competition will bring prices down because companies will get priced out of a market if they try charging too much. You want maximum employment because if you don't have maximum employment, you see a slowing economy. That's not good. And then you see recession because less people have less money to spend. That means layoffs. Not good.
So you're in the camp of, hey, inflation's come down enough to the point where the Fed cannot keep justifying.
What? 2% is a fictitious number. There's no written law about it. 2 or 3% doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It just doesn't. And you're not going to get rents to come down where you want them to come down without the Fed cutting rates because you need to be able to refinance debt at a lower rate than you can refinance it today. Especially if you have a floating rate loan. You don't want rates here.
That's a fair point. So ultimately, you think do you think it's 25 or 50 bips on in September?
I mean, CME Group has it at 50 bips right now. I mean,
I don't think we get 50, dude. I don't think we get 50. Given how stubborn the Fed has been, 50 is like, if anything, I think they would do 50 in November, and maybe they'd total them at 75. But I think they're doing 25 to start things off.
I almost think you should just leave rates at 3% unless something catastrophic happens and then fluctuate rates by a percentage point either direction. I don't think you need to get this jittery with rates. 3% rate, everybody makes money. It's low enough where the carrying cost on debt is manageable. And I mean, I don't subscribe to the notion about 2% or 3% on inflation makes a difference. I just don't.
But you don't think Paul Volcker raising rates is what stopped inflation in the 80s? Like, do you think
They-
do you think capitalism would have solved
You
inflation?
can't compare errors like that. And here's why. It was a different world. You didn't have all these ways to build a business or to make money. It was a different world. You can't compare.
Yeah, that's fair.
The business landscape was completely different in the 80s. There was no internet, there was no nothing. Can't compare it. Apples and oranges.
Were you there in the 80s?
No.
Just curious. Were you like you were young though in the 80s, right?
I was young in the 80s.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so overall, you think markets are going to be fine? The 50-50 chance. Fed has to cut rates. That'll determine everything that happens. The carry yen trade. JP Morgan says it's pretty much done. Do you think that's true or not?
I mean, I don't really care. I think it's over. Maybe it's not over. Who knows? But it looks like Japan's not raising rates anymore. So I don't know. It depends. I don't follow the currency markets that much. So
Would
it is
you
what
have
it is.
engaged in the carry yen trade? Would you have converted currencies and gotten a
No,
yield? Why?
no, because I would have to quit my job and I would be glued to a screen all day, only looking at that. And that's why I didn't do that for a living, because I'd probably jump out a freaking window. Like, no, it doesn't interest me. And it's not worth the risk. Like, there are too many things that are outside of your control that have to go right for that to work. Why would you want to do that? Unless you're being really compensated to be right, there is no reason for an individual investor to even consider that.
So why did hedge funds engage in the
Hedge
carry
funds
yen?
is different. They're not individual investors.
Hmm.
Hedge funds have a gigantic amount of money and they're being judged on their performance. You can't charge 2 and 20 or 2 and 15 and not provide return. So if they're able to borrow money and pay back less money to clear out that debt because one currency is devaluing and one currency is stronger, that's going to give them additional margin. But they manage that round the clock 24/7. So it makes sense for them to do it to justify what they're charging.
Right.
But for me,
Okay, talk to me about Robinhood. What did you think about those earnings?
I think they were strong. Very strong.
Enough for you to buy, or how are you thinking of the stock itself?
I don't know.
I know you don't like the company. I know that, but like, what did you see in those earnings? Because you called me after those earnings. I mean, like, what did you see that was really?
Yeah, I don't remember
special?
what the deck was. I think it was the net income growth, and I think there was a lot of things that was very bullish for the company. I don't know. I wouldn't be opposed to it.
Okay. Intel. Intel's now trading below tangible book value. Are you excited at all to buy more Intel?
Oh, their tangible book value doesn't freaking matter
Why?
because it could continue to get worse.
Why?
Intel could take years to work itself out, but I am buying here because I can wait this out as long as I have to wait this out. I don't see a world where Intel is not a serious player in servers and personal computing with desktops and laptops. And you have two critical events that are coming up. October 2025, no desktops can be used on a corporate level. I should say November 2025, because in October 2025, they're sunsetting Windows 10, so there's no more security patches. So any company that has an IT department that is worth their weight in salt is not going to let a company utilize any of those computers because it's a huge security risk. Nor should anybody on a personal level be utilizing Windows 10 anymore at that point. A lot of computers can't be upgraded. You're going to have to buy a new computer or rip out your motherboard and your chip and put a new one in that is after a certain model, because a lot of chipsets are not upgradable to Windows 11. So you're going to get a big boom from that. Then you have, I would think 2 to 3 years, a real use case for AI computers on a personal PC level. And I think that you have probably a 2 to 5 year cycle of upgrades for computers. And that's going to have to help Intel at some point. AMD still sells less chips than Intel in the x86 industry, and it doesn't look like they're going to eclipse them anytime soon, if ever. Now, maybe they do, but the data doesn't show it. And Intel still is a dominant player in servers. So I think when you take that into consideration, yeah, who the hell is buying ARM chips for Windows? Stop it. Like, come on. I know Microsoft is putting them in their Surface tablets, but come on.
But you don't think that's a competitive threat with Intel over the next
No. I don't think ARM is competitive for this. No.
Really?
No.
Interesting.
No. Not in this area.
Not on the actual devices. Okay, so
no. Devices, yes. But
okay.
for computing, no.
But
I'm not talking about tablets. I'm not talking about phones.
Isn't your bull case the devices on Intel?
No, I'm talking laptops and desktops.
That's what I'm saying, devices.
That's not a device. That's a computer. A device is a tablet or a cell phone.
What? I've never heard of it.
A device is a tablet or a cell phone. A computer is a laptop or a desktop.
I thought a device was anything. I didn't.
No,
okay.
no.
Okay. But okay.
Is a tablet a computer?
So hold on. So you're saying ARM chips on the ARM will be competitive with chips on the computer with Intel?
No. The ARM, I think, will be competitive with portable devices. Whether
got you.
Whether their chips are in tablets or cell phones or any type of portable computing stuff. I don't think that they're going to be competitive with AMD or Intel in desktop or laptop computers or in servers. We're not seeing that data right now. Now, if that changes in the future, it could definitely change. But right now, off the data I've looked at, they're not competitive in those areas. And those are the areas I care about when I think about Intel's bull case for the future. And then you start looking at the foundry business and what the potential for that is. I like Intel going forward. I mean, Passmark has I'll try to find it right now for you, all the analytics between Intel and AMD. It's actually pretty interesting.
Chris says the device will be my house cleaning robot. Yes.
Yes, 100%. Those things will be ARM most likely. And from that aspect, yes. So I'm going to give you this is so do you want me to share my screen or do you want to share it?
No, you can do it.
All right. This is what everybody should be looking at when it comes to the data between AMD and Intel. So this is where I get my analytics for this. It's CPU benchmark. When I look at how well chips are doing, I'll show you some other stuff on here. It's actually pretty crazy. So AMD versus Intel on all CPUs, Intel is still more than 30% of the market. Okay. You go to desktops, AMD is closing the gap. After Q1, we got into, this is into Q3 right now. AMD's at 45% for desktop. Laptop, look at this. Intel is still over 70% of the market with laptop market share for chips. And then servers, Intel is still 85.1% on chips in the server market. Like, I'm not pulling this out of my ass. Like, this is the actual data. And what does server farms need? And what do data centers need? Oh, server chips. Like, the amount of chips that are going to be needed to coincide with the GPUs on all these data centers that all this CapEx is being spent at, you're going to need a lot of server chips. That's not going to AMD.
Yeah, and Lay's is not going to make those types of chips.
No, ARM is not making these chips. Sorry,
but you don't think the broader market could shift to ARM over the next couple of years? Even if
I think the broader market will shift to ARM on a lot of different things, just not high-end compute. I could be wrong. Like, I could be 100% wrong. That's just my opinion, because the data doesn't show ARM in here for server market share or laptop market share.
Does this website show anything about NVIDIA's market share, or?
It may in the video card benchmarks. Hold on.
I've never seen this website. This is interesting. And then I'll ask you about NVIDIA. Yeah, there's a bunch of GPU chips right there. Oh yeah, wow, look at that. 87% for NVIDIA. Video card manufacturer market share. Okay, so let me talk to you more deeply about NVIDIA. All of the CapEx, all the hyperscalers have spent a crap ton of money on CapEx. TSM just had 44% growth in July alone. Do you think NVIDIA crushes and raises guidance for Q2?
Give me 1 sec. Our general counsel just texted me.
Okay. Steve actually has a real corporate job for folks. There will be a transcript of the conversation on YouTube, like an hour after it posts, Yosef. So if you go to the video, YouTube takes an hour to transcribe everything, and then it shows it. Palantir Weekly is 10 p.m. tonight at Eastern Standard Time. 10 p.m.
So what did you ask me about NVIDIA? Something about CapEx spend?
Do you think they're going to crush Q3 and the market's going to stop worrying about NVIDIA?
I don't think they can keep up with demand.
Okay, so the next question is, do you think they end the year closer to 130-ish, back where they were, or how do you think the stock reacts to that?
I don't know. I hope it goes up. I mean, I've been buying. I think that this is a company that has over an 80% gross profit margin and over 50% profit margin that has serious growth on the horizon. And when we look at all the CapEx being spent, it's amazing what they're doing.
What did you make of SMCI falling 20% this week?
I don't follow them. I can't follow everything.
Oh, why can't you follow everything? You own everything. So
I don't own everything. And look,
Steve, how many individual stocks do you own? It's above 100. I know it's above 100.
It's above 100.
Okay, so you own everything, dude. Like there's only 100 really good companies in the market, right? So you own everything. You own it, but you don't own SMCI, which is good. But they went down primarily because their margins, right? They increased demand by 3 billion, or guidance by 3 billion. NVIDIA is a proxy for SMCI. SMCI is supplying, is cooling on the chips, but SMCI's margin sucks, which is why the market tanked them. And that's where I get bullish on NVIDIA as well, is like, if all their proxies are saying, hey, demand's going up, but NVIDIA is the only one with the goods, aka the margins to make it profitable, then maybe NVIDIA truly does end up being the winner.
I don't know if one thing has to do with the other. I think it's more everybody wants NVIDIA chips. No, there's no other company right now that is competing with NVIDIA in this area. Maybe AMD gets there, but they're not there yet. So all this money that's being spent on CapEx is getting diverted to NVIDIA. So, and we haven't even seen what it's going to be with Blackwell when that supposedly gets introduced later this year. So, I mean, I wouldn't go against NVIDIA right here.
Yeah. Dinosaur Dude, thank you for the 199 super chat. Keep up the great show and guests. Steve, thank you for being here. Snapchat. You own a little bit of this one. This one had a nasty earnings. Are you going to buy more at 8, or how do you think of this one?
I need to look at. I don't follow them that much. So,
there's no concern there.
No.
Okay, and then Meta, question here, or actually besides Meta, Amazon, because Amazon took a beating after their earnings. I don't know if we talked about their earnings, but you're big on Amazon. Do you think it deserved to get a hit for a lower guidance raise and less advertising numbers, or no?
You want to get me angry, don't you?
I'm just curious how you think about
it.
Amazon.
You know what's going to drive me off a cliff, because I specifically stated what my feeling was on this in the article.
I don't know, dude. I'm curious. I want you to tell everyone, like, how much do you think the street got Amazon wrong?
100% wrong. 100%. I mean, look, the street got annoyed because Amazon generated, what was it? They were looking for 158.4 billion in revenue, and they generated 158. But nobody's listening to what Amazon is saying. In Q1, Amazon said, we are going to generate between 154 and 159 billion. They came in at the high end of the freaking range.
Yeah.
So nobody is listening to what these companies are saying. So I think it's just ridiculous that people are just picking a number that's so close to the top range. I mean, they told you a range. They came in above the midpoint. This should not be a concern.
Yeah, I agree. And the slight miss on advertising is not that big of a deal. Do you ever feel AWS should be spun out and you can invest?
No, get that out of your mouth. Don't say that again. Stop.
Why?
Horrible idea.
Okay, why?
Go through the earnings report. Even though
I mean, dude, those retail margins are weighing them down. That's annoying.
Even though international and North America are profitable now, you will destroy Amazon's free cash flow generation. You will destroy its profitability, and their profit center will be gone. That is the most stable business from a profitability standpoint. Okay. Everything else fluctuates tremendously. Getting rid of that and spinning that off into a different company will destroy the valuation case for this company. Destroy it. You don't want to do that. It's the same way you don't want to spin out Azure from Microsoft. Nobody, and isn't it funny? Nobody talks about, oh, shouldn't Microsoft spin off Azure?
The reason for that is because Amazon has this $50 billion per quarter retail business that they can't make any money on, which is
That's
dragging.
not true. They make money on it.
They make
Look at the
3%
numbers.
on it.
Look at the numbers. They make money on it.
The point is people love AWS. They hate
Sure.
a lot of the other stuff. I'm not saying they should do that. I'm just saying it's something that I think at least the market considers would be healthier.
If they did that, I would seriously consider selling Amazon.
SoFi. Any updated thoughts there, or
I'm not happy.
why?
I'm not happy.
But forget the stock. Is the stock not making you happy, or is it execution? What do you think?
Oh, no. I don't care about the stock price. That the company is executing. I think the stock price is low, and I'm just not happy about the partnership.
What partnership?
The business banking going through partners. I'm not.
Oh yeah. Can we talk about that? So what is their small business partnership?
I don't know enough about it. I really should look more into it. But from the little I looked into it, because I was so angry I stopped looking at it. It's going through partners. I want that through SoFi. I think business banking is a huge vertical that they need to be doing independently. And I think they need to grow their asset management business.
Hold on. This is exactly my issue with SoFi. Why the hell are they doing this via partnerships?
Not happy.
This just reinforces my argument about user experience, dude. How is this a good user experience to go through a third party?
I don't know. I don't know enough about it, but if you look at Chris said, I agree with him 100%. Look at what Chris said to Noda. Go down. Scroll down.
I
agree with Chris 100%.
He said, I think SoFi needs to build business banking and lending as an in-house vertical as soon as possible. I personally was hoping to see that released inside of 2024.
Same here.
Well, Steve, again, this is why I think, you cringe when I say Robinhood, but this is why it's Robinhood over.
I'm not cringing. I think Robinhood is making a real serious profitability statement. I think they're making a real.
But my point is Robinhood cares about the youth. The Robinhood would never be like, oh, you can sign up through American Express.
I'm not happy right now.
I didn't even know it was partners, dude. I saw this headline yesterday for a second. I didn't really look at it. Now that I'm reading the tweet, this is.
If it wasn't partners, you would have got a text from me about it.
Yeah, because I might consider going to SoFi from Bank of America from my small business account.
There you go. Even more reason.
Yeah, I'm not going through some partnership, dude.
Just saying, they're missing the mark on this. This needs to be in-house. They need to grow the asset management. And then they could have business banking, they could have business lending, and 401k sponsorship plans through them, and their own ETF/mutual funds. They can get the management fee on the funds, and then the actual asset management fee on the AUM for the wealth management business. This could be such a huge vertical, and they're missing the mark on it.
Rango says, dude, Robinhood partners with everybody. What are you talking about? Yes, they partner with people, but they are not making you you don't have to go to Blue Ocean, Rango, to buy your shares in the 24-hour market. You buy it on Robinhood. You know what I mean? No one even knows Coastal Community Bank. I know them because I'm a shareholder, but you don't know the credit card bank provider. They make it a seamless experience. Having to go through a third party to set up your SoFi business checking account. No, that should be absolutely internally done in the app. That should be a 5-button process. And boom, there you go. Small business. You're there. So SoFi is starting to remind me of Snowflake compared to Palantir.
I wouldn't say that, but.
No, but in terms of if you take SoFi and Robinhood versus Palantir and Snowflake, one of them is clearly caring about product. The other one is caring about What are they
I
caring?
don't know if I would go that far. They care about product. I just think that they are. Look, I've never criticized Noto before. I've never criticized what they're implementing. I'm not happy about this, and I need to do more due diligence on it. But when I'm done with my due diligence, if I'm not happy, you're going to see like a real long tweet to him directly about this.
Yeah, and he reads those tweets. And again, I think SoFi still goes to $9 end of year. That's my price. I still think it's undervalued here. But more and more, they're starting to prove they don't care about the product. Like they don't have level 1 options yet on the app. Like there's certain things that they just don't care enough about. And maybe they're making that decision. But if you don't care about that stuff, you can't expect to dramatically grow users or net deposits.
Yeah,
it's going to be very difficult.
We'll see. I'm going to go have dinner though.
Yeah, no, I'm going to let you go. I'm like, you took off your glasses. You got that upset about SoFi. But.
Well, I was trying to, because those are my reading glasses. I'm trying to see if it's raining because I want to smoke a cigar afterwards.
Real quick, last question.
Yeah.
PayPal. Are you selling it for Palantir or you're buying more PayPal?
Not selling it yet, but if Palantir retraces, it could be on the table. It could be on the chopping block. I don't know if the market actually gets excited about PayPal. And if I sell and PayPal goes to 90, I won't be mad. So it's just one of those things.
Okay.
It's getting close to being on the chopping block.
And then finally, do these 3 letters mean anything to you? X, R, and P. Do those? Dude, Steve calls me. He's like, you got to look at this XRP. They won this lawsuit. And I was like, okay, whatever, bro. I'll look at it. So XRP, big week for you. Just wanted to give you that shout out. You've been bullish on XRP for a long time.
Like, you really want me to drive to Jersey and see you. Like, Jesus.
XRP, folks, take a look.
Have you even looked into it yet?
Dude, I don't give a shit about XRP. Like, it's hard for me. It's called Ripple. What type of
No,
stupid name?
Ripple is the company. XRP is the token. 2 different things.
Why is it called Ripple? Like, I need to know what the name signifies for me to even get interested.
Can you please just look into Ripple? Can you please? If Ripple ever goes public, I promise you that's going to be one of the most exciting companies.
I'd rather buy Pokemon cards over Ripple.
Look into Ripple. Look into what Brad Garlinghouse is doing. There's a real chance that they put a lot of pressure on the Swift banking network.
Yeah, dude. You think they're taking down the Swift banking system, which is possible, but
you need to look into it. Look into it. They have the potential to do some big things.
Okay.
Go to ripple.com. Look at what they're doing.
What we need to do is a podcast just on XRP. We need to do that eventually later next month. We need to do that. So we can do a real deep dive on it. All right, Steve.
Why don't you get Brad Garlinghouse as a guest? Seriously.
Because no one knows who Brad Garlinghouse is.
He's the CEO of Ripple. Get Brad Garlinghouse as a guest. Please.
Okay. I mean, if you know the guy, let me know. I'd love to have him on the show.
3 to 5 second payment settlement time. I'm at 3 to 5 seconds.
Steve, thank you. We love you. We appreciate you. You are by far the most requested guest on the show, by the way. I've gotten a lot of messages, like literally about when is Steve coming on again. So people love you. That's Steve's Twitter. Please make sure to follow him. Steve's growing on. Steve, you have 5,284 followers on Twitter. So you've been growing a ton on Twitter. And checking out Seeking Alpha.
Yeah, I would say follow me on Seeking Alpha, not Twitter. I don't really tweet much.
Okay, so let me plug your Seeking Alpha. And then he'll be on next week again to talk about whatever we talk about in the markets.
All right. I'll call you later.
All right, Steve. Good night. Thank you. All right, folks. I think that's pretty much it for today. It's been a wild day. Palantir is still, I think, $30 after hours. 29.98. Okay, so 8 p.m. We'll see if it officially closes at 30. Fun day, dude. It's been a fun day for Palantir investors, Palantir shareholders. Steve, obviously incredibly bullish. And I agree with him. I don't think you have to rush to buy in and think it's going to like $50 tomorrow. But at this point, the company's proving that it becomes irrelevant, caring super much about the price and just DCAing over time and waking up in a decade and seeing how they execute it. So it'll be fun. It'll be super fun. Amit, let's talk about Hood. Get me excited. I've talked enough about Hood this week, dude. I know I feel bad for people because the stock is not, doing what it obviously should be doing, but There were dude, I looked at the $18 call contract expiring today. There was like another 20,000 calls open. Just like Palantir had 50,000 calls open for the $30 call. It just had enough momentum to break through. Robinhood also had the $18 call was loaded up the ass this for Friday. So I think the market makers also wanted to crush the IV on that, and that probably hurt Robinhood over the past couple of days. But we'll see as the market recovers. I think Robinhood will recover as well. And I think the biggest mystery now over the next 4 months is, do we end up having a bull market? Do we really end up having a bull market? Because I think the fear is still there, dude. Like a couple weeks ago, I was like, all right, so bull market, it's in place. And then this is how it happens, right? Black swan event, bad labor data, and then all this shit starts forming. Then the fear comes in, then you get a 10% correction. Probably what was needed in August. But I think now we got to get through August and get into the September rate cut to really feel the bull market is still intact. Obviously, if you're a long-term investor, none of that really matters. But to protect a lot of the profits and gains on paper in 2024, a decent number of things have to happen over the next 3 months. And if they do, then I think we're looking at November, December on the market open, market close. And we're excited. By the way, I told you guys that story, right, of how I have jury duty. I delayed my jury duty from February to November. And I don't know when they're going to call me for that, but I'm going to have to miss the market open for like 5 days in a row based on how long this trial is. I'm going to try to get out of it again, dude. But that lady, she was like, you're not going to get out of this again. She's like, I'll let you slide on this one. I'm going to try to give some excuse because I can't imagine missing the show for a week. Like, that's ridiculous, bro. Like, what if I was a doctor and I had to do surgeries? Like, there's like, you can't put a doctor in jury duty if they're like, I'm not saying the show's as important as a surgery, but to an extent, like it is, important, right? So it's like, I'm going to have to figure that out. So hopefully we're here in November, December, and we keep going. But it's going to be exciting. It's going to be, I didn't get to ask him about Fortinet. Damn, I should have asked Steve about Fortinet. I totally forgot. We'll ask him next time. I totally forgot to ask him about Fortinet. All right. Super, super, super fun. Thank you, everybody, for being here with me throughout the entire day. It occurs to me I listen to you more than my wife, the amount of minutes I need a break. That's fun, dude. That's fun. That's very, very fun. No, it's cool, dude. And it means the world to me. Today was one of those days where you got to stream. You got to be live. I'm so happy we didn't close the stream when Palantir was on its way to 30, because that's one of those moments when you want the whole community together and you wanted to see it play out. Let's end on this question. What are you guys doing over the weekend? What are you doing over the weekend? And then we'll end it out. I don't think I'm doing anything. I don't think I'm going anywhere. I don't think I'm doing anything. I have a couple of meetings. I am doing a Sunday show because now we're streaming 6 times a week. So Sunday, 7:45, 15 minutes before the overnight markets open on Robinhood, even though I'm not sure they're going to be working on Sunday. Vlad said they're going to get it fixed by next week, so we'll see. But 7:45, we start the Sunday preview for the markets on Monday. That's why Saturday, I really do try to take a break from the markets, dude, because at this point, it's Monday through Friday, and then Sunday, getting prepared. So Saturday is the one day we try to watch Tombstone, for example. I have to watch Lord of the Rings. I have to watch Tombstone. I have to watch Gladiator. I have to watch Terminator. There's so many movies to watch on the catalog. But Prison Break has my attention, dude. Prison Break, I'm telling you, it's a good show, dude. I'm telling you. Someone told me, someone in the comments, I think Nick Piercy. Nick was in the comments yesterday. He's like, yo, I started watching and I love it. I'm like, telling you, bro. Your boy can't just your boy's not just, doing stock picks, doing movie picks, show picks. Now, you guys might hate my movie intelligence, but when I pick a show, Dawson's Creek, how many people actually watch Dawson's Creek? I've been recommending it for almost 2 years now. I'm telling you, Dawson's Creek, one of the top 5 shows of all time in history. Dawson's Creek is up there. So if you haven't checked out Dawson's Creek, give it a. I did notice one thing though, along Dawson's Creek and Prison Break, TV was really different in 2005. So, dude, some of the stuff they're saying, I was just like, you couldn't say that today. Like, or if you did say that, the implication of what you're saying would be so obscene over FTC airwaves that it would be very difficult to like get, the legalities of it worked out. But 2005 was a different time, dude. Some of the shit they're saying, I mean, dude, it's kind of like exhilarating because they're not that afraid to say some of these things. But I don't think TV shows now would ever say some of that stuff. So it's more fun as well to watch those older shows. All right. I think that's pretty much it for today. And we'll be back on Monday. Yeah, pretty much all of you guys are saying you're just relaxing over the weekend, spending time with family, live music, some concerts. All right. We will be back today for Palantir Weekly, 10 p.m. So if you want even more Palantir coverage, I think Matt will be on, Amir, Arnie, maybe Dominic, and myself. So we'll have a lot of perspectives on Palantir Weekly. Keep going from there in terms of Palantir coverage. And then, yeah, Saturday we'll take off. Sunday we'll stream the preview for Monday. And then Monday morning, we're back at it. All right. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Hopefully you guys had a fun day. Congrats to all shareholders. $30. Super, super cool. Super, super awesome. And let's just keep it going. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Have a great weekend. Code Strap, I will send you the link. I'll put it in the chat. And Code Strap might join on Palantir Weekly at 10 p.m. So make sure you're there. We'll see you guys tonight and then on Monday morning. Bye, everyone. Have a good one.